Huh? Punk Revolution now! Today we're going to be talking about one of the most mind-bending, mind-blowing, brain-melting, crazy freaking albums of the entire freaking decade. J. Paul's 413 Bait Ones. What? Punk Revolution now? How could you say this is one of the most mind-bending albums of the decade if it's only been out for a freaking day? Punk Revolution now, because this album was leaked in 2013. That's right, leaked in 2013 and only officially released June of 2019. 6 years later. That is a brain scratcher. That is a head scratcher, mind bender. I've never heard of an album ever anything like that before, where it's leaked 6 years before it's finally released, and that's why it's such a mind bender. And the strange context of this album being leaked is also plays a big role in what makes this music, like, it helps you understand what the fuck's going on in the music, but it also adds more mystery to the music, which makes the music better in a weird way, which I hopefully will be able to explain in a second. So let's go back and talk about 2013 when this album was leaked. This album was leaked on Bandcamp with a bunch of unfinished songs that just sounded like ideas thrown together that like clearly were almost done but not quite, and a bunch of songs that were not finished being mixed properly, and like a weird album cover. So it's like, okay, what the fuck's going on here? A lot of people jumped to the conclusion, quite understandably, honestly, that J. Paul intentionally leaked the album on Bandcamp to help build some mystery and to build some hype over this album. I mean, it was already a pretty anticipated album to be released, so for leaking was just gonna get, headlines and stuff. But no, this album was not intentionally leaked by J. Paul. This was like actually leaked by some evil fucking hackers, and they were making money off of J. Paul's unfinished songs, and this had to have been devastating for J. Paul, because going through the process of writing an album, recording an album, building hype with your record label is fucking exhausting. I mean, I'm doing that right now with an album I'm working on with Died, and like I've already gone through the process with a couple EPs and shit, and it's fucking exhausting every single time. And for it to be leaked, unfinished, J. Paul's hard work that he probably started writing these songs when he was a fucking kid, given that it's his debut album, must have been it was devastating. It was probably a traumatizing experience for him. That's why it took 6 years later, 6 years after the leak, for him to recover from this traumatic event of this album being leaked, for him to finally be able to say, okay, I've healed enough for me to go back, finish those songs, and release it how I want to release it, as best as I can, and now we can all fucking listen to it without feeling guilty, knowing that we're listening to a illegally leaked version of the album that probably caused J. Paul a lot of discomfort and unpleasant feelings whenever he listened to it. So it's fantastic that it was finally released. Congratulations to you, J. Paul. I hope you can really start to move on from this horrible thing that happened to you with this album being leaked. But now let's talk about the frickin' music. The music, like I said, sounds like a bunch of unfinished songs, crazy mix. The mix is insane. The bass is just so abrasive. The mix is just so abrasive and just but the vocals, J. Paul's vocals are just so sweet and tender and just beautiful. I love the vocals in this album. They're fantastic and just so sweet. So the contrast between the sweet vocals and the abrasive mix just creates an R&B album unlike anything you've ever heard before. And the fact that it's unfinished just adds a beautiful charm to the album, and you can't help but scratch your head and wonder, is this actually unfinished, or are these intentionally unfinished as an artistic statement, as an artistic choice? And that mystery, on top of the mystery of the strange way this album was leaked and the strange way it was finally released, the music itself is also a mystery, because you don't know what's intentional and what's not. So that's fucking Punk Revolution now, fucking mind-bending, mind-blowing, mind-amazing. So fantastic job, J. Paul. And on top of the strangeness of the weirdness of the context and the strangeness and the weirdness of the mixing and the weirdness of the unfinished songs, this album has some real fucking bangers, like the song 100,000, Jasmine, fucking Genevieve, and then like SRB, STU, or whatever the fuck it's called. These are fucking fantastic songs that, if were properly mixed, would probably be radio friendly, and J. Paul could have gotten really famous, which is probably something J. Paul thinks about that's very depressing, which is, if only I was able to release these songs how I wanted to, maybe I could have become way more famous than I am. So what do you think? Tell me in the comments section. Do you think this album being leaked 6 years ago created some sort of weird, mysterious hype around it that actually benefited J. Paul as an artist? Or do you think this being leaked actually just hurt him in terms of preventing him from being more popular and more famous than he could have been? I don't know, but frankly, the fact that it's unfinished really adds a shit ton of charm to the album. I'm giving it an 8.8 out of 10 in the music scale and a 10 out of 10 in the context of the album scale, because I think the context of this album is just so amazing. J. Paul, shout out to you for writing this amazing album. I hope you have a lot of success in the future with your future music projects or whatever the fuck you work on. Sorry that this album was leaked, but great job on finally releasing it. Punk Revolution, no!
Yo, I have a secret. Please don't tell anyone this. I've never told anyone this. So when I was a kid,